But many persons believe that when, for instance, there's a fear in among certain circles on the planet that if you activate your pineal gland, your third eye, it's a porthole to a demonic realm. And I always just say, well, why would God create you that way? It's not true. God does not create you in a way whereby he gives you a portal to demons if you take it upon yourself to self-develop, so as you can have discipline, so as you don't harm others in your actions and behaviors. But persons see it as evil, a good thing, having discipline over yourself. Someone like the Buddha is often seen as evil by certain other religions because they recommend that you go within and conquer your demons practically, instead of living with your demons. Instead of professing that you are a child of God and living with your demons and still going around sinning and hurting other people, they say that that is good, because at least you've called out and accepted that Jesus is the Son of God. And those who go inside and find a way to discipline and not commit these sins are evil because they're going inside. You see, they will call light dark and dark light. Now, I'm not having a go at anyone who professes Jesus as the Son of God by any means. That's not what I'm doing, and I'm not saying it's literally the case. I'm just trying to give an example. Hey guys, so I was just doing another little video, and well, it wasn't a little one, it was quite a long one. I was speaking about yesterday and how we must be a house of prayer. Now, to be a house of prayer, I say you have to be right in the center of yourself. You have to be able to come over your emotions and not act from your emotion. You've got to come across your emotions and come into a silent place, seek the kingdom within, and then hear what God requires from you. Now, for us growing up in the West, that is much more difficult than it is for persons here. Our boys did something which I find very amusing, but also very beautiful. Now, prayer here and fasting is a big part of the culture. At night time, here in Feathersdale, you can hear persons, especially there's a lady here who is sick with AIDS, and you hear her praying. She prays loud with a lot of emotion. But when she's finished expelling all this energy and emotion, and you hear her shouting and shouting, when she's finished, she goes silent. Because it's like an emotional mantra she pushes herself through until she finds the middle of herself. And this is how she finds her union with God. Now, one thing here is you don't have media pulling you outside of yourself. There are not adverts on every street corner. There are not flashing lights and smartphones and computers and televisions all over the place. There are not adverts on the side of cars, so on and so forth. You just have yourself in the nature. And this reflects in something I saw recently, because I myself this year, I've watched one movie. Now, when I watch movies, sometimes I feel like it draws me out of the center of myself. And here, when you are daily faced with constant emotional and spiritual battles, and you're at war with these things constantly, internally and externally, coming out of your center is not a place you want to go. It's truly not. So for I don't want to be drawn out of my center too much, and this year so much has gone on that I wanted to stay so centered that I've only watched one movie. We projected the new Jungle Book on the wall for the children, and they loved it. So this leads me into the children and the lesson I learned from them. Now, when I was a younger man, well, actually when I was a teenager, when I was a child, I guess, when I was a young teen, I played computer games. I haven't played computer games for many, many years, over a decade at least. And over a decade. I feel old when I said that. I have memories of playing terrible games where you kill people and stuff like this, and these shouldn't exist. As far as I'm concerned, there's no benefit to human society or human beings to walk around the street killing random people in a virtual reality, in a reality of false light. For those who can control the light that goes into your body can play at God, and that is not the reality we live in. And this, unfortunately, is the reality that people are subjected to, and children are subjected to, by parents who don't read the labels on their games. And they say you're being a killjoy. Oh, let a child have their fun. It's not fun to teach a child to murder, or that murder's okay, or that violence is just a part of life. This should not be happening. That light is not God's light. That light is the fragmentation of light created by the realms of Satan. Ultimately, that is what it is. However, what I will say is that there were times with computer games that are very, very beautiful and good and social. And for I, growing up in a small village on the coast, the Durham coast of England, it was freezing cold most of the year. So playing computer games with your friends in a group, if you were playing nice games, was a good social thing to do. And it got you all together with something to do. We didn't just do that. We played other games as well, cards and stuff, but we all got together at least. So the boys, the first PlayStation has come to Tanzania, if you like, the original one that I played on when I was a child, which you can get for like £10 on eBay. And many people who have a little bit of money are starting to look into this idea. Now, one of our boys, due to his troubled background, doesn't go to government school, he goes to a private school, because the teachers can communicate better with traumatised children. They have more time to do so, government teachers do not. And because the classes are much smaller. Inside those schools, there are children with a little more affluence, if you like, even if it's just the fact that your father's a truck driver or something like this. And this one child had a PlayStation, and he had Grand Theft Auto, which is the game I mentioned where you just kill people on the street, and a football game. So the whole family would play this thing, and our boys had seen it and said, for Christmas we don't want anything, we just want one of these. So I said no initially, but then I mulled it over and I said, well, I got a lot of positive benefits from the beautiful games and socialising with my friends. So maybe I can just be very selective with the games that they get. So reluctantly, I got them one from off eBay when I went home at Christmas, and this was the Christmas box between 5 of them. An old PlayStation, not PlayStation whatever we're on to, 7 or whatever, I don't know where we are with it, but the old original one. Now, I did that and I got them some very light-hearted, childlike games, and they're happy with it, and some sports games and stuff, and they're happy with that. Now, here was the funny thing, and this ties into another thing that happened here. We do movie night for the children. They're allowed to watch a movie one night a week, and we used to say you can do it on 2 nights a week, but they said no. And when I said why, Dominic's exact words to translate how the children felt was that when you watch movies, they take over your mind. Now, I was very shocked to hear this, because this is a feeling I've had sometimes, because it's true. That which goes into you from the media takes over your mind. This is why we have TV programs program the mind. And he said, I feel it taking over my mind, and I don't feel as good the next day when I'm at school, or I don't feel as motivated to do my homework. It breaks their routine a bit. And we said, okay, so you can have movies just on a Saturday then. You don't have to have 2 nights a week, at their request. Now, after much deliberation and much of them pleading with me and hounding me for this PlayStation, they've had it 2.5 months. They've played on it twice in 2.5 months, and they haven't asked for it. We've got it, so it's monitored, but they don't ask for it, they don't want it. And I was very confused, and I thought maybe they don't know how to play it, maybe. So I sat down and I realised what was going on. Now, you see, when you have grown up with nothing but yourself at night time, you become very centered. And when the night comes, the light comes. Because when the night comes here, you don't have electricity. Most of our children did not grow up with electricity. You're left with one thing. You're left with the internal darkness, but not the negative emotional or psychological internal darkness. I mean physically. You're left with closing your eyes in that eternal space of dark. And it is inside that internal dark, that space of dark of having your eyes closed, that you begin to find the light. In the darkness, there is light, and often in the light brings you the feeling of darkness. Now, I'll explain more what I mean, but what was happening with the boys is that this external stimulation from this PlayStation was making them so uncentered, so outside of themselves in this comfortable place, this place of stillness that I was seeking for many years in meditation, and thankfully have found a way to hold on to it with at least one of my arms, if you will. So when I come out of there, I can pull myself back in, even if it's a battle and I need to meditate. At least I know where I'm going. But unfortunately, in the West, many of us have come so far out of that internal place of peace where we are just comfortable with God and our internal light, if you were, the internal stillness of the dark, which brings the light in our being. Many of us in the West are so drawn out of there that we don't even know how to find our way back. Whereas here, with so much going on, so much death and poverty and hunger and suffering and sickness and abuse and all the other things our children have faced, that place becomes home. That place becomes your resting place. And these computer games were drawing them so far out of their resting place that they were feeling uncomfortable afterwards. They didn't feel very nice and light. They felt a little bit detached from something that they were feeling. And for all they can't word it in the same tense or same way I can, it's because they've drawn themselves out of the center and away from God with this external stimulus. It doesn't mean it's evil or it's wrong. Some people in the West have grown up with it and can find a lot of love and union and friendships in that world. That's fine. It's just no problem. It's not about my opinions or anything. I'm not judging. And I know there's a lot of beautiful benefits for persons with regards to social interaction with digital means these days, without any shadow of a doubt. It's connecting people in a good way. But for the boys, just the games were so stimulating for them, which is really interesting. It pulled them out of the core of themselves. Now, I, as a child, I used to be so stimulated by these things that I wanted more, because that's where I used to feel, and when I stopped, I'd need something. I'd be like, oh, I need to stimulate myself. Whereas the children are so connected here to their center that after being so stimulated, they say, I don't want more. I want to get back to my connection with God. And that's ultimately what was going on. So I'll see how often they use it this year. I've got a feeling it'll be like less than a handful of times in the year, because it's free for them. I've told them whenever you want to use it, you come and ask for it. But they just don't want it. And this is why. It's a bit too overstimulating for a child who's grown up in nature, without false light, without that level of stimulation in their lives. It's very unsettling for them. So this ties in to myself yesterday and coming very far out of my center yesterday and needing to get back in there, which I've managed to do. And the boys and their little interaction with this PlayStation, which is collecting dust, is a reflection of that, I feel. And it shows us that we've gotten very used to being outside of ourselves. Now, I said I'd elaborate on the idea that the light is in the dark and the dark is in the light. I'm talking in a very literal sense here, that the internal darkness, I'm not talking about our internal darkness as in our dark desires, the shadow as Carl Jung would describe it, our demons, our negative demons as you would describe in biblical language. I'm talking literally when you close your eyes and it's dark. When you close your eyes and it's dark, this is where you will find the truest of light. And often the light is where we find the dark, because you find certain religious preachers and practices all over the planet which are preaching the idea that you should condemn people, you should judge people, you should hate other people who are different to yourself. And this is where you see persons saying, yeah, this is of God, but the Bible warns you of this. The Bible tells you they will call light dark and dark light. And they will call good evil and evil good. And this is what we're seeing, that people look out in the light and they go to certain churches, not all by any means, I'm not saying all churches, but certain churches, we know they exist, where their main goal is to go around preaching against certain minorities on the planet. Or preaching against, I recently have people preaching against the fact that I'm white and saying that I'm evil because I'm white, by labeling me with what white persons have done on this planet in history. They believe what they're doing is of God, but it's not true, because it goes dead against every Messiah, spiritual teacher and prophet on the planet. and they believe that which is dark is light. And likewise, when I tell certain persons that you need to go within and commune with God, people believe that this is dark, when in actual fact, when you go inside and you self-develop, that's where you find the light. But many persons believe that when, for instance, there's a fear in among certain circles on the planet that if you activate your pineal gland, your third eye, it's a porthole to a demonic realm. And I always just say, well, why would God create you that way? It's not true. God does not create you in a way whereby he gives you a portal to demons if you take it upon yourself to self-develop, so as you can have discipline, so as you don't harm others in your actions and behaviors. But persons see it as evil, a good thing, having discipline over yourself. Someone like the Buddha is often seen as evil by certain other religions because they recommend that you go within and conquer your demons practically, instead of living with your demons. Instead of professing that you are a child of God and living with your demons and still going around sinning and hurting other people, they say that that is good, because at least you've called out and accepted that Jesus is the Son of God. And those who go inside and find a way to discipline and not commit these sins are evil because they're going inside. You see, they will call light dark and dark light. Now, I'm not having a go at anyone who professes Jesus as the Son of God by any means. That's not what I'm doing, and I'm not saying it's literally the case. I'm just trying to give an example. And this echoes in a physical sense as well, because that is a more metaphysical sense of things, where persons are going out into the world to churches who preach negativity, and they think that they're in the good and in the light. And it's not. Clearly the light, which is them having their eyes open, is the dark. But when they close their eyes and go in the dark, they find the light of God, because they find the self-development and the love of God and the Christ within them. Now, just one last thing, physically speaking, it's a common theme that in the light there is dark and in the dark there is light. Now, this echoes in other scriptures. The Nag Hammadi says that's because the light of this reality, for all it contains fragments of the original God, is not actually created by the true source of all life. It's created by a demigod, a child of his, if you will. And that's why when we go within, we raise up out of this light and out of the building blocks of this reality and commune with the true God. That's why Jesus said his kingdom. Jesus, who is all-loving, said his kingdom is not of this world, and he said Satan is the prince of this reality. So, when we do go within and we seek that place and we find that light within, actually your pineal is stimulated in the darkness, so the light is in the dark. And your pineal is stimulated in the darkness. This is why you dream at night time. But what that means is, with your pineal, you begin to secrete melatonin. So on a very physical and literal sense, melatonin is a skin lightener. So when Jesus said, "Let thy eye be single and your whole body will fill with light," well, it's true. First of all, when you go within and you close your eyes and you allow the light of your spirit to begin to grow through the physical darkness of having your eyes closed in meditation, then on a physical level, your pineal begins to secrete melatonin, which is actually very healing for the body as well. Your body will fill with light on a physical sense and on a metaphysical sense as well. And these are the layers of the grand scriptures of the planet, which exist in every culture and can be read in many different ways, but all have the language of mysticism inside them. So one way, even if you want to read it literal, you should also read it in the mystic sense. For the Apostle Paul told you, "You shall not be able to do this unless you understand the dark sayings. These things are a parable," as Jesus did say. Or as it is in the story in Genesis, these things are an allegory. So, yeah. But originally I just wanted to say that the boys came so far out of their centre that they don't want that much stimulation. Whereas Western children are so stimulated from birth that they don't really feel that centre, I think, as well as what the children here do. And that's something I want to ensure my children will never be too overstimulated with those things and will always remember their anchor to the centre of themselves. I hope that's one thing I can instill upon my children as a father, that they always remember their centre and they always remember that's where God dwells. So, okay, I'm going to get off because one of my dogs is chasing a pigeon and then I'm worried he's going to catch it. Okay, God bless, guys.